Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show on ET now. We just had an in-depth discussion on the importance of creating a will so that your heirs and your family will have it a bit more easy and they're not grappling in the dark trying to understand your financial assets and where have you parked your savings and your money. But the latest news flow that we've received is certainly not very good news. It's yet another 5 lakh credit and debit cards whose data has been put up on the dark web. And when I say data, I mean the card number, the CVV number, email address, cardholder's name, as well as the cardholder's phone number. All of it is put up for approximately $4 million on sale on the dark web. But if you thought it's just your credit and debit card data that is under threat, well, it's also your medical data. A German firm has said that there are 2 reputed hospitals in Mumbai that have actually seen patient records being stolen and being put up on the web. That includes, once again, the patient's name, personal details, the ailments, as well as medical images. The German firm, in fact, alleges that the hospital did not have a foolproof security system where all this data was stored. How can you know then that if your data is vulnerable to such crimes, maybe not for your medical records, but at least for your credit and debit cards? Is there a way that you could find out if your debit or credit card data has been breached? We'll also be talking about the provisions of the upcoming data protection bill. It's still a bill, not an act. It's still been referred to the Joint Parliamentary Committee, but there are certainly certain aspects of that bill that one must be aware of, and we, of course, at ET Now and The Money Show want to give you a head start. So to talk about all of this, we have with us Ritesh Bhatia, cybercrime investigator and cybersecurity consultant. Ritesh, thanks so much for joining us on The Money Show. This is the second time, unfortunately, that we have to speak with you. And I say unfortunately, Ritesh, because it's another half a lakh of credit and debit card data that has been just put up for sale for $3 to $4 million odd dollars. What is the latest round suggesting? I mean, it's the same entity, that has essentially done this. How are they doing this? What is the modus operandi of sorts?
Well, Mubina, as far as the modus operandi of this particular one is concerned, it looks like it's more of an e-skimming. Now, e-skimming is something where, you go onto these payment, you go onto the shopping websites, and at that point of time, when you're just checking out or, you're just going and paying by the credit card, that is the time when they skim all your credit card details. So, on this Joker stash where this particular data is available, earlier also the similar data, but it was like twice the, double the numbers was also available. At that point of time, it was like, it was like confirmed that those were like from the skimmed POS devices, like when we go over for shopping in the offline stores or at petrol pumps or wherever we hand out our credit or debit cards. It could be on the ATMs also. So it could have been skimmed. So it was skimmed from there. But this batch, the new batch that comes, it seems that it has been skimmed from the online payment gateway websites. Or like, for example, you went and did a shopping on a particular e-commerce store, and moment you enter your credit card details, there was a skimmer. So that's called as e-skimming. So this is called as a mage cart attack. And this was like probably, it seems that it was from there. Mubina.
Okay, so Ritesh, is there any way that I can check when I'm at that point of sale? Let's say I'm at a store, or for that matter, you mentioned e-commerce website. Is there any way that I can know that, this looks like this payment mode does not look safe, or this e-commerce website does not look safe? For me, as a lay person who does not know obviously much about, how these things work, is there any telltale signs that, maybe I should not use my credit or debit card here?
Well, unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to find out if there is a particular malware or a skimmer on that particular website. It is these, and hence we recommend that it's only and only like these famous websites which are very well known, because they really take security very seriously. So you shop from there. So any other particular website, we are not very sure about it. But yeah, I can. One thing which is there, that you need to be using like a secured machine. I mean, there are certain like basic hygiene things that you should also take care from your end. Like, you have a good machine with a good antivirus installed over there. You're using a good browser and not having too many extensions on it. Even if those extensions are there, they should be legitimate as such. So and you shop from these well-known websites, because if at all, even on these well-known sites, by any chance there is an e-skimmer, you wouldn't like come to know about it.
Is there any onus on the bank or the financial institution that's giving me the debit or the credit card? Because, I read another line that says that 98% of the data of the credit or the debit cards are actually issued by the big Indian banks. So is there any onus on the bank as well? Maybe that tells me that, okay, you know what, I don't think this bank has the best practices or whatever, so I should not take a credit card from them. Is there any such indicator for us?
Well, no, the banks are governed by the RBI. They have like very strict regulations as such. So it's not something like that, okay, this bank is better or that. Of course, I personally prefer a little more like the international banks and the private banks, because they provide very faster resolutions compared to some other banks that, I have seen. My clients have faced a lot of issues. It's been like 1 year where their card was skimmed and it was not their fault, and they lost 8 lakh rupees and nothing is happening for them. So that way, if you see, there are certain banks which are like really very good. They offer resolutions also quite fast. And but one thing that we really need to understand, Mobina, after understanding this particular card breaches, this should really worry us. We must question our banks. That is my card one of them? Generally they don't have answers to it, because they have to download the complete database as such, and which they should ideally. RBI should give them instructions, or I'm sure they would have already given them instructions. They should download this entire batch, and the consortium of the bank should go through these cards, and they should block these cards, and they should issue new cards to the citizens, to the customers, whoever has been affected. Because are we like really waiting that somebody will use this card? And for all the viewers who think that, okay, only my this data is there, like the 16-digit number, the expiry and the CVV, but what about the OTP and PIN? Like, as I told you last time also on your show, in order to do international transactions, you don't require the OTP, you don't require the PIN. So, just imagine if your credit card has a limit of like, let's say 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, which is quite common nowadays. Imagine all that money going off. So we need to question the banks as such, Mubina.
We just, in fact, I think in January is when we had that big 30 million debit and credit card breach, and now another 500,000. So it's really got people wondering. And I suppose, Ritesh, the fact that we are seeing such an increasing number of debit and credit card data breaches, do you think that now it warrants that every viewer watching out there, if they have a debit or a credit card, do you think it's necessary for them as well to pick up the phone, call their bank and ask that, hey, listen, I need to know if my credit or debit card data as well has been put up on sale for the dark web? And also, is the bank or the financial institution liable to tell them yes or no?
Mubina, I didn't get your last question because the voice is not very sharp.
So, Ritesh, essentially, I'm asking you that, look, for me as a lay person, I don't know if, there is this skimming crime that is there when I'm making the payment. Now the crime has already been done. The cards are already on sale. Do you think then all our viewers watching should pick up the phone, call their bank or financial institution and ask that, listen, is my data on sale? And also, is the bank liable to give them an answer as well? Do they have the right to know that?
Yeah, of course you have all the rights to know that, and I'm sure the banks are going to say like, why don't you change your card in that case? So it's fine. If that is the case, because as of now there is I'm not very sure about these banking regulations as such, whether they are supposed to notify me or not, but ideally this is the step that they should be taking. But if they are not doing it proactively, let us approach them and ask them. If they refuse to answer, at least what you can do is change your card. And if you feel you don't want to get into that hassle also, so please, let's do one thing. All your credit and debit cards, now you can just go and disable international usage of the cards. Like for example, with my bank, which is HDFC, I have an option to go online and to disable any international use. So even if somebody's trying, if somebody's attempting to use my card, rather to misuse my card internationally, they won't be able to do it because the card is disabled as such. The international use of the card is disabled. Secondly, what you can also do, if you have such a huge limit, like let's say 3 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 7 lakhs, what you can also do, you can set sub limits. Like on a daily basis, my use of the credit card or debit card should not exceed like more than 5,000 rupees. Something like that. So we can set limits also. Most of the banks are providing this feature, but many of the customers are not aware about it. So make use of it. This is like really great, because I had a client who had come to me and told me he received so many OTPs, but because so many messages, but because the international was disabled, he didn't get defrauded. Mubina.
Okay, fair enough. I just have time for one quick question with you, and I must ask you about the data protection bill. One would hope that, RBI would make it compulsory for banks to disclose if my credit or debit card details have been essentially breached. But I don't think the data protection bill has anything to do with that. Ritesh, how would the data protection bill essentially impact my financial data?
Well, the data protection bill, as far as our data, it puts a load of responsibility on all these data fiduciaries, like the ones who are the guardians of our data. So one thing what they are going to do, they are going to have lots of security systems, because in a case of a breach, they'll be penalized with minimum 15 crores, or 4% of their global annual turnover. So with that, keeping that in mind, they're going to have really rock solid security systems. I think they already have, but as far as the privacy is concerned, or the protection of the data is concerned, I'm sure I will hear few breaches as such, not as many breaches as we keep seeing, because there is a lot of information exchange. One particular organizations get certain data, they also give it to some other organizations, rather they sell it off or they trade or whatever. So all this will be really very less, which means I hope I'll be getting fewer marketing calls and fewer SMSs and things like those.
Always hope, Ritesh, but we're always inundated with all of these calls and SMSs. The block feature as well, sometimes I think they'll be able to surpass that. But thank you so much, Ritesh. Let's hope for better laws and stricter action against such entities that post data on the dark web to the detriment of all of us. Thanks once again, Ritesh, for as always sharing with us some very, very valuable tips. Okay, very quickly, we will take a very quick break. But when we return, we'll be talking about luxury real estate and where and which are the NRI and HNI's chosen developers.